Good morning, students. We are into doing the chapter Indigo written by Louis Fisher. I would summarize the story again for you. We started with the story when Gandhi was in Lucknow and an Indian National Congress meeting was going on. Over there, a poor farmer, peasant, Rajkumar Shukla comes to meet Gandhi and he urges Gandhi to come to Champaran so as to fight against the injustice done to indigo sharecroppers. Gandhi readily did not agree to come to Champaran as he has various appointments throughout the country at various places. So Rajkumar Shukla urges him to fix a date. Gandhi tells him that on a particular date he would be in Calcutta. Over there, from there, Rajkumar Shukla and he together can board a train to Patna to head to Champaran. Rajkumar Shukla remembered the date and reached Calcutta and waited for Gandhi to finish with his appointments, and together they boarded the train to Patna. In Patna, Rajkumar Shukla took Gandhi to Rajendra Prasad's house. Now, Rajendra Prasad, you are very well known, was the president of a free country, or that is of our country, India, and he was the president of the Congress party. But at that time, Rajendra Prasad was not at home, and Rajkumar Shukla used to come to Rajendra Prasad as he was a lawyer, and he used to come to him to consult about the case of indigo sharecroppers. Now, from there, they headed to Muzaffarpur. In Muzaffarpur, Gandhi stayed in the house of Professor Mulkani for 2 days, and Gandhi appreciates his Malkani, saying that during those days people used to get scared of the wrath of the Britishers and did not harbor the people who used to fight for home rule. From in Muzaffarpur, Gandhi consulted the lawyers regarding the case of indigo sharecroppers. Gandhi learned from the lawyers how much fees they charge from the peasants. He was very disappointed to learn about the fees as he felt that the peasants, the farmers, are fear-stricken and poor and illiterate. And he felt that such cases like indigo sharecropping, law courts will not be of any help, and such cases should be run outside the court. So Gandhi was told what indigo sharecropping was. Indigo sharecropping is when these lands, the arable lands, were owned by the Englishmen and landlords, and it was worked on by the Indian tenants. Now they compelled the Indian tenants to plant 15% of their land holdings with indigo and surrender the entire indigo harvest as rent, and this was done by long-term contract. And we come to know that how these Britishers, English men, learned that Germany has started producing synthetic indigo, and that was of a cheap rate. So they tried to fool the Indian farmers, saying that they are going to release them from this long-term contract of indigo sharecropping if the farmers agreed to give a compensation to these Britishmen, to the Englishmen. Now, farmers were poor, they were illiterate, and moreover, this long term contract was very irksome, it was troublesome, and this 15% arrangement was troublesome for them. So, they signed very readily. Now, those who did not sign, they were being bullied by the thugs. And at this point of time, Gandhi arrived in Champaran, and the farmers who learned that the landlords, the Englishmen, would get on a cheaper rate, the synthetic indigo, they wanted to get their money back because they realized that they were being fooled by heavy amount of money. At this point, Gandhi had come to Champaran, so he started his investigation. Other than the things that had been told by Rajkumar Shukla, other than the things that had been told by the lawyers, he started investigation on his part, that how many farmers work as indigo sharecropping, how many of them work as tenant farmers, what percent of how many of them are in debt because of the landlord system. So all sorts of investigation Gandhi started. And first he went to the secretary of British Landlord Association to get the details, but then the British secretary, the secretariat said to Gandhi that he cannot give information to an outsider. Then Gandhi went to the British official commissioner of their hood division, but then the commissioner did not support Gandhi. In fact, he threatened him and bullied him to leave Tirhut. Gandhi did not leave. He headed to Motihari, the capital of Champaran. And all the lawyers joined Gandhi in his mission to fight against the injustice done to indigo sharecroppers. In Motihari, Gandhi used one of the house as headquarters so that the investigation could be carried out. Then Gandhi learned that in a nearby village, a farmer had been badly treated by the British landlords or Britishers. So Gandhi headed to that village to meet this poor peasant. But while he was on his way, he was stopped by the messenger, police superintendent messenger, and was given a official notice to leave Champaran. Gandhi signed a receipt saying that he had received the notice, but at the same time he wrote that he would disobey the order. Now, because it was an official notice, he did not quit Champaran. He was summoned to the court. Now, next morning, when the court proceedings was to start, the whole Motihari, the town of Motihari, was black with peasants. That is, farmers from all the villages, nearby villages, Motihari, Champaran, Muzaffarpur, all of them gathered in support of Gandhi. Now, they did not know who Gandhi was. They know one Mahatma is there, one person is there who is a champion, who is fighting for their rights. So they gathered in a huge number outside the court and started doing spontaneous demonstration. And then it was so difficult for the officials to control the crowd that they have to request Gandhi to help them. Gandhi was very polite with them. So the government was baffled what to do. So prosecutor said that we should postpone the trial and some other day we would do. Gandhi protested because he was there and he read the statement that yes, he is guilty. He was served an official notice, but then he did not leave Champaran. So yes, he is guilty. Then he says why he was guilty. He said why I did not heed to the official notice. He said that he was in the conflict of duties. First, he did not want to set a bad example as a lawbreaker, and on the other hand, he had to listen to his voice of inner conscience, and he thought that he was there for the service of his people, that is the poor farmers, poor peasants, and to fight for the injustice done to them, and the cause was just. That is the reason he did not quit Champaran. Now let's continue with the line by line explanation of the chapter. The magistrate announced that he would pronounce sentence after a 2-hour recess and asked Gandhi to furnish bail for those 120 minutes. Gandhi refused. The judge released him without bail. Now, the trial that was going on against Gandhi was that he did not comply to the official notice to quit Champaran. So the magistrate said what? That right now there is a 2-hour recess and Gandhi has to furnish the bail for those 120 minutes. That is 2 hours he has to furnish the bail. What is bail? Bail is an amount of money that a person who has been accused of a crime pays to a law court so that they can be released until their trial. So he said that to furnish bail. Gandhi refused that he's not going to furnish any bail. Then the judge released him without bail. When the court reconvened, the judge said he would not deliver the judgment for several days. Meanwhile, he allowed Gandhi to remain at liberty. So, when the court restarted again, reconvened, that is, met again after a break of 2 hours, judge said that he will not deliver the judgment, that he is not going to announce any judgment for now, is not going to read any judgment for now, and for now or for several days, and Gandhi was allowed to be free. He was at liberty. Rajendra Prasad, Brij Kishore Babu, Maulana Mazhar-ul Haq, and several other prominent lawyers had arrived from Bihar. They conferred with Gandhi. So, all the prominent lawyers, the respectable lawyers, or the known people, they came from Bihar, and these people came from Bihar and they conferred with Gandhi. That is, they consulted and conversed with Gandhi. What would they do if he was sentenced to prison? Gandhi asked. So Gandhi questions them that suppose I am sentenced to prison because the case is still hold on in the court. The case against Gandhi that he did not respect the official notice to quit Champaran. So Gandhi said that if I am sentenced to jail, what would the lawyers do in his absence? Why? The senior lawyers replied they had come to advise and help him. If he went to jail, there would be nobody to advise and they would go home. So these senior lawyers who have joined Gandhi, these all prominent people, the main important people who have joined Gandhi, they said we came to advise you on the Indigo sharecroppers, their cases running in the court and all that could be done in terms of legal things. Though Gandhi himself was a lawyer. So he says, if you were sentenced to jail, then what will we do? We would go back to our homes. This is what the lawyer said. What about the injustice to the sharecroppers? Gandhi demanded. Now Gandhi questioned them that we together started in this fight, in this mission to stand for the Indigo sharecroppers against the injustice that has been done to them. We were there to fight against the landlord system. So what about that? What about the mission that we came together? The lawyers withdrew to consult. So lawyers withdrew, they went back, they thought that they will think upon it, they will consult about things together. Rajendra Prasad had recorded the upshot of their consultation. So Rajendra Prasad and all the prominent lawyers, they together had consultation, and Rajendra Prasad gives us a conclusion of what was the consultation, what happened in their act of consulting each other. They thought amongst themselves, they here stands for lawyers, they thought among themselves that Gandhi was totally a stranger and yet he was prepared to go to prison for the sake of the pheasants. If they, on the other hand, being not only residents of the adjoining district, but also those who claim to have served these peasants, should go home, it would be shameful desertion. So now the lawyers thought that Gandhi was totally a stranger. Gandhi was altogether not a stranger. Nobody in this village knew Gandhi. Neither Gandhi knew what Champaran is or where Champaran is. And yet he was prepared to go to prison for the sake of peasants. So Gandhi was ready to face anything for the just cause, for the right cause, that is to fight for the injustice done to the Indigo sharecroppers. So he was ready to go in the prison behind the bars for the farmers if they, on the other hand, being not only residents of the adjoining districts but also those who claim to have served these peasants, should go home, it would be shameful desertion. Now lawyers started wondering and thinking that how shameful abandonment would be there, escape would be there, or flee would be there if these lawyers, all these prominent people, they leave from there. These were the people who are staying in the adjoining villages, that is near villages or adjacent villages. And moreover, these were the lawyers who were fighting their case, the law case of many of these pheasants in the court. How shameful it would be them, what an escape it would be them if they leave the farmers in their grievances and leave Gandhi behind the bars and leave the just cause that they have gathered for. So they realized their mistake, that they were wrong. It would be a sinful desertion to run away, to escape, to abandon. They accordingly went to Gandhi and told him they were ready to follow him into jail. So lawyers realized that we were fighting for these farmers in the court. We are staying in this nearby villages and in villages for the staying. These are our villages, and Gandhi is coming from out from the other from Ahmedabad, from Sevagram. So they realized that we should stand by Gandhi in this cause, the just cause, and they said that Gandhi, we are going to follow you in jail. If you are arrested, we will also get arrested. The battle of Champaran is won, he exclaimed. So Gandhi said what? Gandhi was happy to know the decision of the lawyers, and he says the battle of Champaran is won. Why? Now they were united. They were united together in this fight against the Britishers and the poor Indians, and against the fight for the just cause. So he says this battle of Champaran is won because now the farmers are not fear stricken. The lawyers and everyone have gathered in this fight. Then he took a piece of paper and divided the group into pairs and put down the order in which each pair was to court arrest. So Gandhi took a piece of paper and divided. So that suppose if he is arrested and put behind the bars, how everyone is to go for court arrest. And then he told them the sequence, the order in which the court arrest would be done. Several days later, Gandhi received a written communication from the magistrate informing him that the lieutenant governor of the province had ordered the case to be dropped. Civil disobedience had triumphed the first time in modern India. So many days later, Gandhi received a communication, a written communication, that the lieutenant governor of the province had dropped the case against Gandhi. The trial that was to happen in the court, that case had been dropped. And Gandhi announced what? Civil disobedience had triumphed the first time in modern India. What is civil disobedience? Civil disobedience means refusal to obey civil laws in an effort to induce change in government policy or legislation, characterized by use of passive resistance or non-violence. So when Gandhi joined with the farmers, he was not violent. He was not fighting with arms or weapons. He was not like standing face to face with bloodshed and all that fight. No, he was very in a passive way, in following all the rules of non-violence. He was doing his part of the things and standing against the Britishers and the landlord system. So he says that civil disobedience had triumphed for the first time in modern India.